What's going on, guys? Funnel Thighs back again, and I think I've spent enough time with the VDK Pharaoh to actually give you guys a review rather than just an overview video. Plus, I happen to stumble upon some more exact specs for this model, and I'll definitely give you those, as well as perhaps comparing and contrasting another VDK model, the War Admiral that you see there. So, and then we'll just kind of wrap the video up with some final thoughts. So let's get into the specs here. These are from Knife Center, so I don't know if they're exactly spot on, but they definitely seem to be in the ballpark. Now, the blade length here is 2.625 inches. Your handle length is 4 inches on the dot, making your overall length 6.625 inches. So definitely a little compact Persian EDC blade. Blade thickness is 0.157, so a pretty thick stock on this guy. And then your handle thickness is 0.57 with those fully contoured titanium and carbon fiber handle scales. Weight 3.6 ounces. Now, again, you guys heard me in the overview video. I like this knife a lot more than I expected to like it. But then something kind of happened as I started to carry it. Now, I've been carrying this probably for 2 weeks or so. I mean, for the vast majority of the time, this has been in my pocket doing a lot of the work. This knife and the WE Knives Natita have been kind of swapping in and out of the pocket, but I was surprised that this thing didn't leave me wanting a larger knife. Oftentimes, in the past, when I've had any sort of sub 3-inch knife, it feels very underwhelming to me when I'm actually using it. I have to pull it out, cut open an apple, cut open a box, whatever it is. I feel like this is just a little too small in most cases, but this just didn't feel that way. This really gave me a whole new outlook on the term, the little big knife, because that's exactly what this thing is to me. You guys know I'm more of the 3.5-inch blade for folding knives for EDC, something like this. Again, this is not the best example. This is completely unique, but I think for a size reference, this is about as long as I prefer my EDC knives. And you can see that the Pharaoh is just dwarfed by the War Admiral. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that this thing just fits so seamlessly into my system. Now, the Persian blade was definitely different for me. I haven't had a whole lot of these in the past, and I kind of had to go through a little bit of a learning curve on how to use it. But once I did, and that only took, I mean, a couple hours of, here and there use, the belly on this thing is fantastic. I love it. This thing's got kind of a mid flat grind on it. Again, coming from that 0.157-inch stock, and this is S35 VN, and it's got a very different finish. If I don't ruin it with my fingerprints all over it, you can see it's semi-reflective. So it's almost like a satin and a mirror polish mix. Now, obviously, this is not a full mirror, but with that swedge there, this is just a very attractive blade shape. It actually performed pretty well. Now, does it perform like a very thin stocked Spyderco with a full flat grind? Well, no. And I don't think it's meant to. But coming from a blade that I thought was purely good looks, this thing actually has a whole lot of functionality to it. Now, my absolute favorite part of this knife, no doubt, is the action, because it's literally impeccable. I don't know how you would improve on this action. Now, I don't think I've handled a knife that really compares to this other than maybe some other VDK models like the War Admiral. Now, what I can say is, obviously, these are both smooth, riding on ceramic ball bearings with a ceramic detent, but the detent with the Pharaoh is so dialed in to perfection that it blows my mind. It flips amazingly well. Every time I hit it, it just launches out. But the thumb studs, using the thumb studs on this model is a whole new world in terms of action for me. It's like, to be honest with you guys, I would be totally fine if Vlad came out with a Pharaoh 2 or another edition of the Pharaoh and completely eliminated the flipper tab. Again, not that it's a bad flipper, because it's a really good one, but because the thumb stud action is that much better. To me, it's better than the War Admiral, both in flipping action and in the thumb hole action, which is kind of hard to actuate if you want to flick it. Actually, maybe not. But the thumb stud on this thing is truly a work of art. Perfect placement. It's not really in your cutting path at any point. It's just tall enough. It doesn't poke out over the handle scales a ton. And it's just so easy to hit that, and it's so forceful when it comes out. but yet it has that kind of elegant writing on glass feel. It truly is awesome. The detent's great. Centering was never affected. This is a little fit and finish issue I had with this knife. You see there that the bevel is slightly off on the tip. I don't think that's the truth for the entirety of the secondary bevel there. I think it's just towards the tip there, so not a major issue. Did not affect my cutting whatsoever, but something to point out there. One side is just a little bit steeper, and I'm sure I could fix that if I really wanted to, but the S35VN held a pretty good edge. I only had to strop it once or twice, and again, I use this blade quite a lot. Now, something else I was surprised about with this knife is the strength, I guess not strength is the right word, the consistency of the bolster lock here. Now with the traditional frame lock, which these are essentially the same thing, with a frame lock you physically hold the lock bar in place when in use. That means even if you're doing some harder cutting tasks, that's a great thing to have as long as you're not doing torquing motions that might disengage that. It's great to hold that lock down yourself and make sure it stays in place. With a bolster lock, which is this kind of lock where a frame lock is covered by the bolster, you don't really have as much confidence, or at least I don't, that this blade might inadvertently slip out. So I did a little bit of testing, and nothing crazy here, but I did a little bit of tip testing where I was doing stabbing tasks into wood and crap with this, and it held up fine. I mean, the lockup is absurdly solid, even with that early lockup, but I mean, I don't really have any fears now that I've used this knife a little bit outside of its scope in the bolster lock. It performed really well. Now, the handles to me are truly a work of art. If you're not attracted to the blade at all, the handles definitely have a whole lot of beauty in them. They're 3D contour titanium and a double carbon fiber bolster, meaning that this handle shape is not like a cylinder. It's not like a wooden dowel or something like that. It's just sloped enough so it doesn't feel like you're holding on, well, I'm sorry, it's a bad deployment, to a brick. Now, I wish I had a good example of this, but we'll show you my Kershaw dimension here. These are not that way. These are two very flat pieces of titanium with some chamfering around the edges. This is not uncomfortable, but it definitely feels like you're holding something blocky. This in hand compared to that is a dream. And again, we talked about in the overview video that somehow in such a small knife, I can get all 4 fingers on this thing. And I really can, and in use, that is so helpful. I hate when I have smaller knives, maybe not necessarily because of the smaller blade, but because I don't have all 4 fingers on it, and it just feels odd. This one I do, and just barely, but it really works. I found myself using this in a pinch grip a lot. The slope of this handle, this kind of pseudo pistol grip, really felt good in hand when I was doing box cuts and all these draw cuts like that. So the handle's super comfortable. And again, I kind of harped on this in a good way, I guess. I don't think harped was the right word there, but the titanium finish that he's got going on both on this model and his second one, the Pioneer of the Nile, it's beautiful. It really is. It's like this very light blasted look, and it's almost soft. I mean, with these finger choils here that are also contoured, this titanium just feels really, really cool. It feels very different than this anodized War Admiral here. It's just a completely different feel. Again, I don't know how I feel about carbon fiber in general, but I can definitely recognize that this is well done. Again, I don't see any pitting, any signs of low quality here. This seems very, very well done. Just that little flipper tab here. It rode very well in the pocket, and I knew that was going to be the way that it would ride from the start because it sloped so much. So, man, I really should have something here. I'll use this armistice carry. This was your pocket. This sits in just like that. I mean, you got a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch out of the pocket. You flip it, and if this is the edge of your pocket, this just slopes right out of the way. So my phone always sits next to my knife, and this is so nice because it's so out of the way and it's so compact. Now, no, it's not the most lightweight knife in the world, but it really has surprised me in a lot of ways because I liked it more than I thought I would. And once I got it in hand for the first time, I was like, yeah, I'm going to like this knife. And it surpassed my expectations once again. So I think you can tell where I'm heading with this video, but we'll do a little bit of size comparisons for you guys that are familiar or maybe own a War Admiral. Now, obviously, War Admiral is much bigger in blade. You can see here probably at 3/4 of an inch or so more in cutting edge. About the same thickness. I mean, roughly There's a large swedge on the War Admiral, or I'm sorry, the Pharaoh that's making it look a little thinner, but they're about the same. Very different jimping. The War Admiral is more subtle, whereas the Pharaoh looks aggressive, but it's definitely not. But the jimping just seems a little bit more widespread on the Pharaoh there. Similar early lockup here, but both very strong. And I can tell you that the levels of fit and finish are nearly identical, but if I had, you know, to pick a winner here as far as fit and finish goes, I'd say the Pharaoh, just by a little bit. Things just seem to be slightly more refined, both in the blade finish, both in the consistency of the action, and that's coming from a person who absolutely loved the levels of fit and finish on the War Admiral. So I can tell that Vlad is improving, both in design, both in fit and finish. I mean, he's just getting better. And he started out with something so cool in the War Admiral. You can see how beat up this freaking thing is, because I love it, and I carry it pretty frequently. Now, overall, I think the Pharaoh is a really good knife. I don't think it's the best slicing tool in the world. I don't think it's a good tactical knife at all. To me, this is a good gentleman's carry knife, a good standard EDC knife if you want to have something very high quality in your pocket of this cost, which is around $300. I know they're coming out right now. I believe the price is $299 on these, which I think is justified, but only you can decide that for yourself. And to be honest, you guys know I'm not a big lanyard guy on my knives, but with this one, it just seems to fit because how well that lanyard loop was done. So maybe I'll throw a lanyard on this. I don't know. The jimping on the back here, I think it just looks cool. It didn't really give me a whole lot of traction that I felt in hand. But really, guys, to me, what Vlad's designs embody is... crap, I'm going to have to make up a word here. I don't know. We'll just say this. They are utterly unique. That's it. That's when I look at these knives, I know that they're VDK designs, and that I think that brings me a lot of joy to know that Vlad has come out with designs that are so remarkably identifiable. I mean, I don't think I've seen a War Admiral, or even the highly customized ones on Instagram everywhere, that I can't say, oh, what knife is that? It's a War Admiral. Just like the Pharaoh. When as soon as I see a Pharaoh, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a Pharaoh. And a couple of high points I wanted to hit here as well as one other gripe. The lock bar tension on the Pharaoh is dialed in just right. I mean, it's so easy to disengage, but I haven't had any issues when I'm using it that I think it's going to disengage when I don't want it to. I mean, it's just, as soon as I want to disengage it, it just works. And I wish I could show you guys that action a little bit better. It is super smooth. The only other gripe I have with this knife is that I think it deserves more color. It deserves more of this blurple, weird anodization that I love so much on my War Admiral. The VDK Pharaoh deserves that. It deserves different blade finishes, and I think it deserves some bronze or gold anodization on the titanium because, I mean, it's a Pharaoh. Who doesn't love gold being a Pharaoh, right? That's just something that you associate with that term. I think with some sort of, even a full mirror, just some sort of crazy blade finish, and then bronze or gold titanium handle scales. I mean, make them blue, make them in all these different colors. I think the Pharaoh is a winning design that deserves it. So not really a gripe, just something that I thought I should throw out there. Other than that, this thing is awesome. And I highly suggest if you like this knife, you like any of Vlad's designs, go check out his website. I'll have all that linked below. Thanks for getting through a very long video. It's so hard. Again, I know I harp on this every time I do a video on one of Vlad's knives or a ZT or something of, you know, in that upper echelon of knife quality. It's so hard to try to condense these videos because there literally is so much to talk about. Now, I could definitely make this a 7-minute video, tell you guys about the Pharaoh, how much I liked it, how it performed, but then I'm just leaving stuff out. I'd end up forgetting to talk about something, or I just rush myself too much that I'm not really enjoying making the video. So, thanks for watching, guys. As always, let me know what you think of Vlad's designs. I'm sure he'd love to hear it as well. From what I hear, he's being very well received, and I can't see what he comes out with next because everything, again, is so different. It's so new. It's so fresh that it's like, I know I'm not going to be bored with the 4th edition. Well, If you guys weren't in the know, the War Admiral was his first design. There is a Tonto larger blade that sits here. That is the Pioneer of the Nile, and the Pharaoh is the newest one. So you got to believe that he's coming out with more, and I can't wait to see those. So thanks again, Vlad, for sending me this Pharaoh. This thing is beautiful, and I really, really enjoyed carrying it, using it, and just getting an opportunity to look at it. So, okay, now I'm really signing off. Thanks for watching, guys, and remember, have fun with your knives.